Needless Things Podcast. Welcome to the newest episode of the Needless Things Podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, and this is the earliest in the morning I've recorded an intro since our return. I'm usually doing this around 4-ish on Sunday afternoon, which means it's going up shortly after I get my intro done, just because I've always got tons of stuff to do. But I spent all day yesterday doing stuff, and then watching the first night of SummerSlam, which was fun. And then today, really all I've got to do is just try and keep moving things around down here in the Phantom Zone. I've mentioned this on Audible Interlude a couple of times. I'm packing up the wrestling figure collection. A few things will stay out. I'm keeping the CM Punk stuff out. The weirder, like the major wrestling figure podcast stuff, the Super 7 stuff. There are a few things that are going to have a little dedicated space in a different area of the room. But I had 40 square feet dedicated to wrestling figures. And for years, really ever since I started collecting them again, I have thought this just isn't, I love wrestling. I have forever now. But as far as figures go, it's not as cool as Masters of the Universe or Marvel Legends or Monsters or horror characters or Ninja Turtles or droids or whatever. Like, it's the least compelling thing I collect, and it's really just more about like the media than it is about the figures. And to be honest, I've never, and I've talked about this many times, I've never really been happy with Mattel's wrestling figures. You basically have to adapt to the format, and the format is that they have chosen to make all of their legs about 25% longer than they should be. So they all look weird, but when you put them all on the shelf together, then they all look weird in the same way, and it's fine and it works. But realistically, like, they're the only game in town for the biggest wrestling company in the world, so it is a matter of like, well, if you want those characters, that's the format you deal with. I'm selling a lot. I'm keeping a lot. I'm keeping all of my WCW stuff, because that was where this started anyway, was Mattel, like 6-7 years ago? I don't know how long ago I restarted. But they seemed to be making a specific effort to get more WCW into their regular line, and I'd started just buying those. And then, you know how it goes. And here we are now. So I've got 3 totes that I'm filling up, and I'm going to move my G.I. Joe Classified, which no longer fits into its 27 square feet of space, into the larger space. And I don't know. I still haven't totally decided what I'm moving where. But anyway, I'm going to progress on that. But there's nothing that's a have to get done today. There's some Dragon Con stuff I need to do. All the videos are ready for this week and next week and the week after, which will keep shifting. So this past week was supposed to be a completely different set of videos, and then new stuff came in. This coming week, the week we're in right now, I guess, actually, was already set, and then all of those retro classified figures showed up. So now those are this week, and then the Fright Zone, the new Masters of the Universe Origins Fright Zone, gets here tomorrow, so that'll be next week. And I'm actually really okay with having, because this week and next week were all sort of older things that aren't as time sensitive. Like, if I get something, if I can get a review up within really about 2 weeks, then that's, to me, critical timing, because people care more about it shortly after it's been released. But once we get past that mark, I'm not as concerned about getting it up as quickly as I can. So there's a few things that are just cool items that are a little bit older. So that's really honestly probably enough toy talk. Let's move on to Dragon Con talk. Dragon Con just a few weeks away, which I'd like to say is unbelievable, but it's not. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's always very believable when Dragon Con is imminent. But one of the biggest signs that Dragon Con is imminent is the receipt of the schedule. And this is from Dragon Con. Well, it just says Dragon Con. I mean, I know who it's from, but I don't know how public that is for attending professionals and guests and whatever else. So I'm just going to say my Dragon Con schedule. The below information is the tentative program schedule for Dave West. So that just means until it has happened, it is not set in stone. So the very first thing on my list was a shock to me because I had no idea I was on it. I don't know who put me on it because somebody had to request me for this panel. Like, you don't just end up on things. Somebody had to say, hey, I know who that Dave West guy is. I want him on this panel. I'm not even positive what track it is, although I'm guessing it's digital media. But it's pretty exciting. This is the first time I have been on a panel that I didn't specifically request to be on. And it's exciting, other than the fact that it's Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is not a time I would ever pick for myself to do a panel. But this is such an exciting, well, I guess I should say what it is. The title is Art of the Interview. Interview podcasts are booming. This panel covers how to do them right, from booking guests and prepping questions to building rapport and ensuring top quality audio. Learn best practices and avoid common mistakes for compelling behind-the-scenes conversations. Panelists: Steve Reichberg, who is the moderator, either Jean-Marie Ward or Jean-Marie Ward, I'm not sure which, Dave West, Arlie Song, and Rilo W. Ward. Again, Friday, 10 a.m. The good news, well, it's mostly good news. There's only one piece of bad news, and that's that it's Friday at 10 a.m., which means I'm going to have some discipline Thursday night. Location, though, this is great. Galleria 7 in the Hilton. Now, you know the Hilton is my hotel, so fortunately, all I got to do is get up, tumble downstairs, do the panel. Now, I've got to be top game for this because it's a bunch of people I don't know. Again, I'm not even positive like what the track is. I guess I need to look up where the Galleria 7 is. But this is very, very exciting to have been pulled for a panel in the same way that Larry Hama, the comics track director, just pulls him and he finds out like, oh, I guess I'm going to be on this panel. This is the experience. It's thrilling. It shows I have made progress. Next up, also Friday. This one is at 1 p.m. in the Marriott M103-105, better known as the Classics Track Room. Batman Forever, Forever. This movie's stubborn refusal to expire is driving us insane. Be part of a Holy Rusted Metal tribute to the Val Kilmer Bat movie. Panelists. We are definitely missing some panelists here. Oh, wow. Yeah, we're going to have to get some added on to that. So this is myself, Ryan Cadaver, Nicole Gould Cadaver, Michael Bailey, and Mike Gordon will also be on this panel. So lots of folks talking. We've got some surprises. You know how I do. It's not going to be just 5 dorks sitting in front of the room in shorts and T-shirts, driving you into the ground with Wikipedia entries. It's going to be more than that. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to live up to the insanity, the spectacularitude of Batman Forever. And then later that day, just a few hours later, Friday 4 p.m., same room, Classics Track Room, Audible Interlude, Further Adventures of G.I. Joe, 40 Years of Dark Pyramids. Enjoy a live taping. And by the way, Joe Crow writes these. And the fact that he said a live taping just delights me to no end. of the G.I. Joe podcast that Cobra Monthly called the worst hour of garbage I have ever heard, and I have listened to the Dreadnoks when they eat. Well, first of all, as you well know, none of our podcasts are an hour, but that's a hilarious description, and I really appreciate it. The main thing with all of these panels, really all that's important is making sure the topic gets in the title. It needs to say G.I. Joe in there, because we cannot assume that anybody outside of the 7-8 people that listen to us know what Audible Interlude is. So G.I. Joe's got to be in that title. And that one's going to be a big, fun, wild panel. Lots of prizes, audience interaction. Speaking of prizes, the Big Damn Game Show, Saturday night, 10 p.m. We were supposed to have Neon Warlords playing afterwards. It did not work out due to circumstances beyond anybody's control. They just aren't going to be able to be at Dragon Con in that way. But this will be, it's the Big Damn Game Show crew. You know us, you love us, you need to come see us be dirtier than we were before. But this year, not as dirty as last year. It just didn't end up that way. So we took the rating off. We're not worried about it anymore. If we say an F-bomb, then an F-bomb gets said. This is incredible. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you just don't know. It is. I will gladly toot our collective horns about how good this show is, and we put a lot of work into it. And that's part of what I got to get done is building some props for this. But we got plenty of time. Sunday, 1 p.m., Classics Track Room, Halloween Con. It's a spectacular celebration of all the craziness and silliness of Halloween. Flammable masks are allowed, but not mandatory. This is just going to be a celebration of Halloween in the same way that we did Christmas Con a couple of years. We're going to have candy. We're going to be wearing costumes. We hope everybody shows up wearing costumes. We're going to do it up. We're going to talk about Halloween, not the movies, the holiday. So, this is something we've been wanting to do for a couple of years, and now we're doing it. And then finally, Sunday, Panel of Adventure returns. This is where our crew, the con buddies, we read from a Choose Your Own Adventure book. The audience makes the choices, and it is even more fun than it sounds like. I'm so proud of us for doing this. I mean, this was all Beth's idea years ago. This has now become kind of a common thing at conventions, and I believe she did it first. I could be wrong about that, but we certainly do it best, and I have no problem saying that whatsoever. So there you go. That's my Dragon Con schedule. I'll be posting about it in the coming weeks. I'll be follow the Big Damn Game Show YouTube channel. All of our clips, all the intro videos we have will be going up there, so give that a follow. It's not going to be like a constant source of entertainment, but it will be an archive of what we have from what we've done. I am definitely heartbroken that we lost the intro video from 2022, maybe. That really, really sucks, but it is what it is. So having said all that, I haven't even talked about our topic today. Our topic today is super fantastic. I wanted to do a review of Superman so badly, and the timing just did not work out. And then Fantastic Four came out, and I wanted to talk about that as well. And I decided, you know what? Mike Gordon's my guy, and I talk about it in the meat of the episode, so I'm not going to go over it again here, but I wanted to talk about both movies, and we have no choice but to compare them when they're only 2 weeks apart, which I will say again in a few minutes here. But we're going to talk about Superman, and we're going to talk about Fantastic Four, and we're going to talk about the timing of them coming out. So this is it. This is a great, long conversation with Mike Gordon. Enjoy. So just a few weeks ago, on July the 7th, a new vision of Superman was released unto the world. We were supposed to do a review, and the scheduling just didn't work out, but it didn't work out. I couldn't get it out of my head, though. I wanted to talk about this movie, and then just a couple of weeks later, a new vision of the Fantastic Four was released upon the world. And while I generally don't like to compare things like this, I want each thing to stand on its own merits. I'm not a big fan of, well, this was great, but this did this, or this wasn't this. I just don't like that. I like to look at each thing individually. But when two massive tentpole superhero movies are released 2 weeks apart, there's no way around doing a comparison. But that comparison has to be fair and balanced. And the only person that I felt could sit down with me and provide the kind of insight, the kind of thoughtfulness, and the kind of just historical knowledge that we need for this conversation was, welcome back to the show, Mike Gordon.
Howdy. Well, I will do my best to live up to that introduction, but I appreciate it. But you're right, because these two movies, the fact that they came out 2 weeks apart, the studios want this. They both of them are well aware that, I mean, this is they're both sort of starting anew. They're starting fresh.
Mm-hmm.
They both their goals are kind of similar in the fact that they're trying to restart the superhero genre that's kind of been lacking in the last few years, I think, for various reasons, and we can get into those maybe later or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, they're both kind of making a statement here by saying, we're here, we're going to do this again, and this is just the first of hopefully many cool stuff, much more cool stuff to come.
Yeah, this was absolutely done with purpose. This is Kong and Godzilla, and Warner Brothers and Disney said, let them fight.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so, not only that, both movies are unabashedly comic booky and hopeful in a way that we haven't necessarily seen. Very bright and unashamed of what they are, for the most part.
Correct. But they are, and there's a lot of similarities, which I'm sure we're going to get into between the two, but there's a lot of differences too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of differences. And I think a lot of people that I'm seeing, you know, are sort of highlighting the similarities, which is great, but there's some very different things going on with both of these as well. And that's great. I mean, the space allows for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, the space demands that, because won't it be relieving to, you know, going forward, rather than having one obvious, like, I want peak WWF versus peak WCW. I don't really want peak WWE versus like TNA. And that's what Marvel and DC have been for, you know, up until this point, really. So going forward, I would love to see both of them offering very high quality stuff that differs. And that's what we've gotten out of these movies. But before we get to the movies any further, let's talk about our histories with these characters. I know for me, Superman, my life involvement with Superman dwarfs my the pop culture relevance of Fantastic Four to me. I enjoy Fantastic Four, but they are not even in my top 10 superhero loves.
The Superman logo is iconic. It's known worldwide. The Fantastic Four logo, 50-50 shot that somebody's going to get it, right?
Right.
And and they both had, you know, they both had cartoons. They both had outside of, you know, the comics. But they've, obviously Superman's been around a lot longer. But
over 20 years, almost 30 years longer, right? When did Superman first show up? 30?
Yeah.
33, something like that.
Yeah. So you're talking about, let's put it this way. By the time Superman already had like movie serials and radio show, like a radio show and everything like that. By the time that the Fantastic Four hit in the 60s, like that stuff was like nobody cared. Like nobody
Okay,
there was
sorry.
no there was
Real,
no
real quick, 1938.
yeah, there was no call for a Fantastic Four radio show.
Yeah, you're right, right.
So obviously Superman got a head start in sort of the media, but obviously Superman is Superman, and that is an iconic figure known around the world. One of probably the most easily recognizable figures, symbols, logos, what have you, in the world. Like Mickey Mouse, Superman, I dare I say Batman.
Well, no, you dare say Batman, because a lot of the conversation lately, because Superman has been facing some challenges outside of America, the movie, and I have seen it cited in several places that Batman is more recognizable around the world and more popular than Superman.
It could be. I've heard that too, and I don't know what all the numbers mean yet. I mean, there's I still think the box offices are still early to tell exactly what's going on. But let's as far as I'm with you. I mean, yes, Superman as well. However, I will say, I mean, I started reading comics at a very young age, and while I'm not going to pretend that the Fantastic Four was as prominently featured as Superman, I will say that my comic reading, I gravitated towards the two heroes that I gravitated towards the most were Batman and Spider-Man. Those were my two guys.
Yeah.
If it had Batman or Spider-Man on it, like obviously separately and sometimes a couple times together, but that I was all in, whether it's on TV, cartoons, comics, movies, et cetera, still that way. Those are my two guys. Now, I would say as a Batman fan, there's outside of the Batman family, the one hero he interacts with the most is Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say that outside of the Spider-Man family, the one hero or group of heroes that Spider-Man interacts with the most is the Fantastic Four.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I sort of became fans of those characters through Batman and Spider-Man. My collection in my comic collection, I do have a lot of Superman issues, Action Comics and whatnot. I have a lot of Fantastic Fours as well. And so I've been reading both for quite some time, but I will say that I never really subscribed and I would go on little runs here and there for both, but I was not as loyal to those characters as I was Batman and Spider-Man. But I will say, if you like with the Marvel Universe, outside of Spider-Man and his group of characters, Fantastic Four was probably my next one down. And the same thing with DC. Outside of Batman and his group of, Bat family, Superman was like the next one down for me. So they're like, to me, they're both second tier. They both rank second tier as far as my love and appreciation for those characters.
Very, very similar. Very close to where you are with all of that. And I'll also, while you were talking, I was thinking about this, the difference in time between Superman and the Fantastic Four also means that when Superman was introduced in 1938, ever since 1938, media has continued to this day to splinter, to where in 1938, the public attention was focused in a much more central way. And now with, as mediums have been introduced, comics, radio, television, film, and now internet streaming, whatever else, we are less and less connected by things. So Superman had 20 plus years of unchallenged, high profile place in pop culture by the time, and you mentioned radio shows. because that's what it was, and everybody maybe gathered around that radio. By the time Fantastic Four came along, radio shows
1961, by
weren't
the
really
way.
a thing anymore, and there wasn't going to be as focused a media presence because everything was splintering. So
Everything was
that's part of
splintering, and they found ways to make Superman work on a reasonable budget. Like you didn't have to
yeah
have big monsters or cosmic things or anything like that happening with Superman. You could still have one man in a suit deal with Lois Lane and Daily Planet stuff, Clark Kent, as well as just ordinary criminals. It seemed like it was probably like like, yeah, obviously it's not as much of a challenge, but still you could do it. I mean, they did it, like the Adventures of Superman with George Reeve, right? Like that was a hit for a long time. So you could do that. Fantastic Four, that's a different beast. If you want to make a TV series or a movie of Fantastic Four, you got to
yeah
spend money. You got
yeah
to spend money. That's not an easy sell as far as budget goes. You can do it on a Roger Corman budget, but nobody will see it.
yeah right
As we
right.
found out.
So
Yeah, Fantastic Four, by the way, 1961. So yeah, there's about 20 years difference there.
So for me, Superman, while Batman was always my favorite, I always recognized Superman as DC's number one. That's how it was in my head. I just knew he was the guy. My guy wasn't the guy. And that's usually the case for me. My favorite is rarely the top, but with Marvel, so Fantastic Four, I couldn't even tell you the first time I saw or heard of the Fantastic Four. Probably the cartoon. I would imagine the 60s cartoon, was it 68, somewhere around there?
Yeah, I think so. And then they had that first cartoon then.
I'm sure I saw that, but in my mind, I've talked about before how Spider-Man and the X-Men were my top Marvel loves. Like that's for me, those are the two things I cared about. Anything else was purely just, oh, they're in a crossover with them or whatever. But in my mind, in the same way that I recognize Superman as number one, in my mind, Fantastic Four were kind of the premier Marvel family. And Spider-Man would be Marvel's top guy, always will be to me. As much as I love the X-Men, Spider-Man's just the guy. But Fantastic Four were leagues above the Avengers as far as importance in my head. I don't know that Marvel ever really positioned it that way, and I don't know that anybody ever looked at it that way.
They called the comic for the longest time it had the header "The World's Greatest Magazine." They made it clear that this was like the Fantastic Four was the premier Marvel comic.
See, right? And that's how I perceived it, was that they were supposed to be like the kind of as they were presented in the beginning of the movie, the bright, shining examples of awesomeness to the world, and that's within the Marvel universe, that they were also that they were just the best. But I never, like you said, I never, with Superman or Fantastic Four, there would be runs where maybe they would be involved with something and I'd be like, oh, this is interesting. And I'd read their stuff for a while, but I never stuck with it. I never had any kind of continuity with it. And especially Fantastic Four, some of the, I'll be honest, you get like a Jonathan Hickman in there and it's just too much for me. I can't keep up with that guy. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I just can't do that.
It's too crazy. Yeah. I would like to read his run at some point because I do find it interesting, but yes, that's one that's not going to be an easy read. Because why should it be, right? Like, if you put Hickman on a Fantastic Four book, it should be a challenge.
Yes.
And that was, I kind of tapped out of Fantastic Four almost completely by, I'd say, the 90s, 2000s. I would dip my toe in occasionally, but it just looked like, look, ever since that, the other issue, and I think it's the same with the X-Men and the Avengers, although those didn't grab me as much as the Fantastic Four did, um, was they just had a rotating cast. Like it just was a revolving door. And Fantastic Four does too, by the way. Like people leave and
Yeah.
like quit the family or the team or whatever you want to call it all the time.
Well,
And so
sometimes
you never know who's.
none of the family are even on the team.
There have been a few runs where you're right. There have been none of the family members on the team, and that's crazy. But that doesn't, and that's one of those things that, on the one hand, it's kind of intriguing, especially when it's like when they put big guns on there, like Spider-Man, Hulk, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider. I think we're the Fantastic Four at one point.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, I can't not buy this book.
There was, I think She-Hulk has been a commonly rotating member.
She has.
But I love the premise, but it's just not, again, just not something that I've ever really dove too deep into. But I was excited to see what they would be in the MCU.
I also think too, and we can move on from this, but it has to be said, because I think one thing that both Spider-Man and Batman have that make them the best is not just those characters, which they are great characters in and of themselves, but their rogues gallery is just amazing, right? So I think a good villain, a good hero needs a good villain. So with Fantastic Four, they have some great villains. I mean, Doom being one of the best, at least in comics. Haven't seen it play out in movie form as of yet. Here comes Doomsday.
We have in previous iterations, but not in any kind of satisfying way.
Right, exactly. But as in the comics, he was always like one of the top villains in Marvel Comics. And then Galactus.
I wonder if that was. I wonder if maybe that hampered the Fantastic Four at times. That Doom was such a good villain that he ended up being perhaps the top villain in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, but I always felt like, it's sort of like when to go to the other side, when the Joker fights other heroes, it just doesn't have the same. I mean, it's kind of interesting for a while, but it's still, Joker is still Batman's villain, right? Like, and I always felt that Doom. I always felt like Doom was. I never felt like Doom completely outshone, because like when it comes down to it, it's Doom versus Reed versus Doom versus Reed. Like you can put other people against there. I think there was a great Iron Man Armor Wars series with the two of them, Tony Stark going up against Doom. That was a cool concept and that was fun. But at the end of the day, Doom is Fantastic Four villain. And as is Galactus. I mean, yes, you're going to get X-Men and Avengers to help fight him because he's so big and powerful, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it's a Fantastic Four villain. All the cosmic stuff comes from Fantastic Four. Anything in the MCU or anything in the Marvel universe that's cosmic has roots to the Fantastic Four. And so if you like Marvel cosmic, it all starts with Fantastic Four. So I think that's what's compelling about the Fantastic Four to me as well, which the others like the Avengers and the X-Men don't have as much of. They have a little bit of it, but they don't have as much. So that's why I think I lean towards those as well.
So leading up to this point, both have had other media. Fantastic Four obviously has had far, far less than Superman has had. There was the 60s cartoon. Then there was the 90s cartoon that came with the boom of Spider-Man, X-Men, alongside.
There was a cartoon in the 78 that introduced Herbie.
Oh, okay. Wait, let's see. Because now I'm curious about that. Because I just want to know who did it.
Yeah, the 68 cartoon was Hanna-Barbera, and that was just the Fantastic Four as we know them. And then the second cartoon, which came about 10 years later, that was in 1978. That one was that one introduced Herbie, because that at that point, that's when parents started getting involved, and groups were like, oh, you can't have a guy on fire uh
Oh,
every episode.
this is also Hanna-Barbera.
So yeah, and then the Thing has his own cartoon for a while too. So because the Thing was huge. I mean, I don't mean that. I mean, obviously, literally, he's a huge character, but out of the four, the Thing really almost like became a bigger entity than the Fantastic Four. I think the Thing
Yeah.
had his own book, had maybe two books at one point, and people just loved Ben Grimm. So you don't see Reed getting his own book. Yeah, you don't see Johnny getting his own book. Sue. Sorry, but Ben can carry a book, and he had his own cartoon for a while as well. I mean, it just was great. So yeah.
So Ben, if I'm remembering correctly, didn't Ben and Johnny both kind of alternate through Marvel Team Up?
Marvel Team Up was Spider-Man. It was supposed to be Spider-Man and Human Torch, like every other episode, but then it became a Spider-Man Team Up title.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah. So
there's 78 cartoons
but
produced by
Ben had his
Hanna-Barbera.
own, but Ben had his own book called Marvel 2-in-1, in which the Thing teamed up with someone.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
All right. And then 1994, like I said, around when X-Men, Spider-Man got so big, they also launched cartoons of Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and Hulk that were much less successful than Spider-Man and X-Men. But then
this
had
is around
much
that
less
time.
budget.
It's around this time too where the X-Men starts rising into prominence, and I think it's not their fault, but Fantastic Four kind of decreases in popularity.
Well, I think, even before this, though, in the 80s, weren't the X-Men... G.I. Joe was Marvel's bestseller through 86 or 7, but I think at that point, the X-Men were on top for a while, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it started in the comics, but then I think as far as other media goes,
the 92 cartoon, which was based on those comics, was what really blew it up. We got the Toy Biz toy line. There was so much corporate synergy at that point that was just huge. And then Spider-Man, I would say Spider-Man and X-Men were almost on equal ground at the time as far as the animation went. But the Fantastic Four cartoon did not have the budget, did not have quite the same talent behind it, quite the same direction, and just didn't make as much of an impact. And then, of course, we've got the movies, the Roger Corman movie that you mentioned before, that I will say it's worth a watch.
I've never seen it, but I recently watched. Yeah, I've never seen it, but I recently watched the documentary Doomed, which is available if you have subscribe to Prime, which is great watching. It's a great documentary. Not even if you don't care about the Fantastic Four, it's a great sort of documentation of something that a lot of people put a lot of time and effort and love into, that the bean counters just didn't care. And it's really just kind of a sad state. I was so glad to see that cast of that movie not only make appearances in the new movie, but also get the red carpet treatment when they premiered and everything like that. It was just like, thank you for giving these people their due, because man, they put a lot of work into that thing. And granted, it might not be the best thing, but man, they tried. They tried, and they got shut down for nothing, for no reason, just so some people could make some money.
Well, and that documentary is also a look at just how insane Hollywood can be,
yes,
and how wild it is that any movies like make it to theaters. But yeah, the movie itself, it's fun. It's worth a watch. And as Mike said, as you said, you can see the love that was put into it. You really can.
Yeah,
and then we get, and I'll be curious to get your take on these, the later Fantastic Four movies by, was it Sony, I think? or were they? No, they weren't Fox, were they?
I think they were. I want to say they were Fox. Yeah, they were Fox.
Okay.
Directed. The first one was directed by Tim Story. Comes out in 2005.
Okay. So I am an unashamed fan of the first one. I think it's a really fun movie. I think the cast has a lot of fun with it. I mean, Michael Chiklis is the thing. You can't really say anything bad about that. The suit looks good. The way they did it looks good. Uh, it's a fun watch. I enjoy it. They've got costumes. They've got in 2005 when we're still seeing movies that are ashamed to be comic book movies. This has costumes and there are a lot of things like Julian McMahon is great as Doom, but Julian McMahon was a terrible Doctor Doom, if that makes sense. Like that should never have been Doom's story, but he's just chewing up the scenery and he's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've revisited it. I only have seen it the once, I think, and I remember liking parts of it. There's a lot that they got right, including the cast for the most part. Chris Evans as Johnny Storm really won me over.
Of course.
That was, in a way, like almost he'll always be like the Johnny from the comics that I read. Even more so than in this new movie. But no, I think it does do a lot of things right, but it does miss, I think, too. And then the second one is just, I think it suffers from, how do we do this without making it look like a big guy in a suit, like a big suit, like the
sure.
Galactic. Obviously, the big joke is that Galactus is just a cloud; it's not a guy, and all that kind of stuff. Because conventional wisdom was that there was no way to make the comic book character of Galactus intimidating, frightening, effective on screen, and I'm glad that was proven wrong.
Well, to an extent, though, at the time, I don't entirely disagree with that because 2025's Galactus has the benefit of all of the years of comic book movies being comic booky to support his look, his presence, the public's understanding of what was going on. In 2005, I don't know the movie-going public was ready for what we saw of Galactus in 2025. I don't know that it would have worked.
Well, and the technology is better now, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
So, even if they tried it, it might not have worked just because the technology wasn't there. So, I mean, we'll never know, but yeah, it just but it did, it did leave a lot of fans and a lot of people who were not even familiar with Galactus wanting. So it wasn't just the fans don't like it kind of thing. It was more like it just didn't work.
Well, yeah, and it didn't. It did not work. I think the second movie. So the first movie, like I said, I find it entertaining. I can watch it every few years. It has a certain level of rewatchability to it. The second movie, they do the power switching that is fun the first time through, and then if you watch the movie, it's just tiresome. Like the first time you see it, you're like, oh, this is kind of funny and novel, and then it's just all right, enough. Let's get this over with. Lawrence Fishburne is fantastic as Silver Surfer. Now, what they do with Silver Surfer, I think, could have been handled better, but it's not a terrible movie. People like to dump on it, but for 2007. Again, it's a fun watch, and no, it's got the classic element of, well, we got to bring the other bad guy back because the first movie did well, and the thing that I like about Julian McMahon returning is that yes, we have a bit of a team up, and then he's Doom again. Like, he is a bad guy. He's still a bad guy. They're not pals. So if anybody listening, if you have not watched those movies in a while, when you get a little bit of spare time, crank up Disney Plus. I think they're both on there now.
Yeah, they
Or
probably should be.
what?
Yeah.
Disney Plus, Hulu, Max. I think they're all the same service now.
It's all crazy.
But yeah, give them a watch. I think they're really fun. If you can separate your expectations, and look, the expectations are the enemy of everything, right?
Well,
If you go in so attached to your preconceived notions of what something should be, of course you're not going to enjoy what's presented to you. So if you just put aside your expectations and go in looking for a fun couple of movies, I think you'll enjoy them. And then Superman, because obviously we have to give equal time to Big Blue, has not an equally shaky film resume, but it's not a whole heck of a lot better.
No. I mean, obviously the first one, Superman the movie, Superman the movie does for superhero movies what Superman as a character did in 1938 in the comics. Like, the tagline, "You will believe a man can fly,"
Mm-hmm.
like, is so true, because not only can you believe a man can fly, but man, you can buy this superhero stuff, and you can buy the costumes, and you can buy the superhero logic, and it's not campy. It doesn't have to be like Batman 60s. I mean, at the time, that's what superheroes were fighting. They were like, that's what movies and anything that wanted to be a superhero TV show or movie was fighting Batman 66, because that Batmania, which I love Batman 66, but the cloud,
You've got a whole show based around it.
I do.
Plug it.
The Bat Chums, of course. Thank you. But it made such an impact that that every superhero thing that came after, all studios were convinced that superheroes could never be taken seriously,
right?
Because of the pow, zap, and the holy this and holy that.
Isn't it funny how the pendulum, with Batman 66, it swung to silly, and the fallout from that was like, oh, well, it's all silly, until the pendulum swung too far the other way with Dark Knight Returns, and then everything became way too serious. And ever since, it feels like there has been just this constant, and it's like society in the same, like with how things will become a little more liberal and then they become way too conservative. Like, everything is this pendulum trying to find the moderation in the middle. And superhero, media has been the same way, even to a smaller scale, since X-Men in 2000. Like, we've had these little swings of like, this is a little too serious. Oh, that one got a little too silly. You go like X-Men
right.
to Catwoman. Like, oh, no, we got to correct now. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. But Superman, the movie, really, just showed everybody that, I think for the first time, maybe for the first time since George Reeve, that superheroes could be seen on the big screen and be taken seriously. Now, you look at that movie now, and there's a lot of things where you're like, well, that's kind of silly, that's ridiculous, whatever. But at the time, it was taken pretty seriously. I mean, they spent a lot of money on it, and they paid a lot of money for Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
And you don't do that if you're making like a B movie serial, like in the 40s or whatever, or some silly campy thing. In 1978, they spent, $55 million, which at the time was just insane.
Yeah. Well, that's the key point. You just nailed it, is that we're only 12 years, barely a decade past Batman 66, one of the biggest pop culture phenomenons, quite frankly, the world had seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at Superman 78 and you think, oh, that's a little silly, you have to gauge it against Batman 66 because that's the metric it was being judged against. So
Absolutely right.
this is like making if you were to make a serious version of like Austin Powers, like it's they were treating it should have been a B movie, but they weren't. Richard Donner treated it like any other uh top tier Hollywood project, and that's what made it so successful. Is he went in with a vision that he took it seriously, and the studio let him pursue it that way.
Yeah, I mean they backed him, $55 million worth, which was just crazy, and
That's $8
still,
trillion today.
yeah, absolutely, and it still made money. I mean, even
Yeah.
it's still, I think, the most successful Superman feature film to date, like as far as box office revenue, because it was just so huge.
Now, do you
Uh,
think Star Wars at all affected the public's desire and acceptance of more uh, uh, fiction of that nature?
I think so. I mean, I think it had a probably, something to do with it. I mean, we talked about last time I was on your show, we talked about how Jaws set the tone for blockbusters, right?
Right.
So you got Jaws, and then you got Star Wars, and then next year you have Superman. I mean, it's just, like boom, boom, boom. Like,
And isn't that crazy, man? Superman, I wasn't old enough to remember it, but one year you get Star Wars, the next year you get Superman. Like
yeah, and Star
that's
Wars is still playing in theaters at this
yeah,
point. I
right,
mean,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
not, it hasn't left. There's some theaters that are still your afternoon could be like watching Superman and then going to the next theater and
Oh my gosh, that's
seeing
wild.
Star Wars again. I mean, it's crazy, but yeah. So it's the biggest. I think it's still. I don't know. I'd have to look, but it's one of the biggest. Obviously, it's the biggest Superman movie of all time. It's one of the biggest superhero movies of all time, and if not in revenue, in influence, it is.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
so it's huge. And then I love Superman 2.
Superman 2 is the superior movie, in
1980.
my opinion.
Superman 2, what I love about Superman 2, the reason I love Superman 2, and I know it's got a lot of silliness to it as well. It's got some even elements that you could call, dare I say, campy, right? But still, it was, as a comic book fan, it was the first time in live action that I'd ever seen superpowered beings
Mm-hmm.
battle each other
Yep.
in a way that just was still, it made my jaw drop. Like, it makes my jaw drop. Like the scene where they're beating on each other in the city, Metropolis, using buses and flying around. It just was, I mean, I just could not believe what I was seeing. I'd never seen anything like that. And I think it still holds up with one of the best super powered battles of all time. But it was amazing to me that was happening. And so that one will always have a place in my heart as being like my favorite of Superman movie of all time.
The only thing I don't like about that one, story-wise it works, but in my head, concept of Superman-wise, it does not work. I just hate that he gives up his powers. I absolutely hate that portion of the movie. However, looking at the movie just as the movie, it's so great because then you get the twist at the end where he tricks them. And you couldn't have that without the other. So
Right.
like within the movie, I love the movie, but as a concept, I hate Superman giving up his powers as much as I hate Bruce Wayne quitting being Batman in Dark Knight Rises.
I get that. I understand that completely. And there, like I said, it's not perfect, and there's a lot of stuff in there that just makes me scratch my head and go, "What?" But
it's a damn fun watch.
But it is, it is my favorite one. It's my favorite Superman movie.
It's not my favorite one.
And then, and to me, it's the last really good one.
Well,
until this year.
It's time for me to generate some of that internet outrage that I do get sometimes because
Dave, do you got a hot take for us?
I got a hot take. My favorite Superman movie until recently is Superman 3. I fucking love that movie. I love it, and yes, it is campy. It is almost Batman 66 campy, but Richard Pryor is great. His whole storyline makes no sense whatsoever, but he's great. The plot is so comic booky. Superman fighting Superman is great. Evil Superman is great. The birthday cake that Smallville presents to Superman is such a absolute piece of shit. Next time you watch Superman 3, and if you haven't in a while, you should, because it is so much fun. When he goes to be honored, they give him this cake, and it's like, it looks like I made it. And it's like, thank you, Superman, but in the worst cake writing you've ever seen in your life. I really, really love Superman 3. I could watch it right now, and then I could watch it tomorrow. And it is definitely hurt by the loss of Gene Hackman. But I think the rest of the cast do a pretty darn good job. And one of the most terrifying scenes I've seen in my entire life, when the sister gets cyborged, like, that's some of the most terrifying nightmare fuel. Like, you know how you have like things that make your skin crawl, like from your childhood in your head. That one, the earworms from Star Trek 2 are up there for me, and E.T. Like, those are three of my top childhood like terror causers.
Wow.
To me, Superman 3 has everything.
Was that the first one you saw on the big screen?
Yes.
Well, that probably had something to do with it too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because that's in the run. Because Superman 3 came out in 1983, and that's in that. Well, okay, it's the first one I remember seeing on the big screen. I might have seen the second one. What year was the second one?
1980.
It was 1980. So my mom might have taken me to see the second one, but I don't have cognitive remembrance of it. I do remember I remember bits and pieces of Empire, but not of Superman 2. But Superman 3 it's in here.
I saw the first movie, Superman the movie, 1930. I saw in the drive-through.
Well, you were like 25 years old, so of course you did.
Wow. Okay. Like, I need to feel older.
Listeners, Mike Gordon was not 25 years old in 1979.
Yeah, it just it feels like that wasn't that long ago though. But yeah. So and then Superman 4 I didn't see until just a few years ago.
It's so bad.
It's terrible.
There is nothing redeem. I can't even say it's a fun watch.
There's one redeeming scene. And I put it there with like Star Trek 5, which is awful too, right?
Oh, see, I like Star Trek 5.
But there's one really good scene in Star Trek 5, which is the Dr. McCoy and his father scene. And this is not that intense, but in Superman 4, there's a really good scene where Christopher Reeve is like playing Superman and Clark Kent having a date with Lois or something, and he's like switching back and forth. It's just awesome. Like, it is so good and so fun.
Right.
And to your point, Dave, one of the things that, even though these are terrible, they're fun.
Yes.
They're fun. And that was an element of Superman movies, all four of these, that we didn't have after this.
Well,
we don't get in movies later on.
They're fun because to me, a movie's worst crime is not being bad, it's being boring. That's the worst thing a movie can be, is boring. And these are not boring. And Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman are giving it 1,000% at all times.
Yeah. I mean, Gene Hackman, as much as he knows that like stuff is crap, he will not let you show it, and he'll show up and work. He'll show up and work every day. Like, that's what he does, right? Yep. He'll just show up and work. And it's great. I mean, he's a great Lex for a lot of reasons. Yeah. And so yeah.
And then we move ahead to Superman Returns. was that 2005? Surely
Uh,
not.
that was 2000, and
I'm
I had
I'm
it right
normally
here.
more prepared note wise, but I didn't want to get all caught up in details because I wanted to just have a fun conversation with Mike Gordon.
2006. You're close.
2006, I was
Yeah,
close.
yeah.
Um,
I
no,
think the biggest problem with 2006 is that Bryan Singer wanted to make it like the Donner movies.
well, he wanted it. He was looking at it as a sequel,
Yeah,
and it
but
couldn't
it
be
it
that.
yeah, it couldn't work that way, and so and it had some issues of there's the joke about Superman being a deadbeat dad and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like, yeah, that stuff just doesn't, like, it doesn't work, and they were bad decisions.
Well, it's that gross cynicism that tainted a lot of adaptations around that era.
And now you have this like, poor association with the director Bryan Singer as well as Kevin
Right.
Spacey, that just makes it like, I don't want to watch
It
it, but I
it
will
just
say
makes it just makes it like we should elect them president.
I I
Oh, Mike Gordon just moves on from
I
that one.
do. I do. Because I will say that like the one thing about that movie that made me like, because I saw it on, I think, an IMAX screen when I at Mall of Georgia, the big IMAX screen. And I tell you what, that sequence where he saves the plane in the ballpark, I mean, I just want to stand up and cheer. That was such a great Superman moment. And I thought at that point, like, the movie can do no wrong, and it just kind of just tailspins from
Tanked
there.
from
But
there.
but
Brandon Routh, Brandon Routh was great, and I am thrilled that he had the opportunity later to really sink his teeth into other roles and represent superheroes in a different way because he
yeah,
deserved that.
yeah. But I know that, Bryan Singer, the guy who, is responsible for the first two X-Men movies, which I really loved, and then he left to make Superman, cross the border to DC over, and in doing so, he ruined two franchises. He ruined the X-Men films, and he ruined the
Well,
Superman movies.
it's a
So
moot point because, and this is, we're not going to get too deep into this, but because of the subject of Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey and our current president, uh, obviously there are a lot of bad people in the world, a lot of bad people in Hollywood, and it's always interesting to me to see what my tolerances are.
yeah,
Um, I can't watch the X-Men movies anymore. Those first two, I can't do it because they're too much him. I wouldn't watch
uh,
Superman Returns either way. Usual Suspects, I couldn't do. It's interesting to me to see, like, I can still watch Joss Whedon's stuff, even
yeah,
knowing what we know about him. Whatever my tolerances are, I can do that. But that puts you off the list for me.
yeah. So for those reasons and all those, yeah, Superman Returns is just,
I don't
gone.
know if we have to say alleged reasons. I think everything is alleged. We'll say
Okay,
alleged.
alleged reasons,
So
but
so our president
but
is
it's
just an alleged pedophile.
but even so, it's not a good movie. Even if you take all that stuff, even though those guys are not alleged, you know, terrible people, um, it's still not a great movie. So,
So moving on, as we
and then
probably should at this point. So
and
that's it? That's it from until we
Man of
get
Steel.
Man of Steel, which, okay, here's another hot take from Dave. I don't even know how to phrase it. Ryan Cadaver and I have had so many conversations about this that we haven't recorded, which is just the dumbest thing in the world because we need that sweet podcast money rolling in. I like Zack Snyder's style. I think that Zack Snyder is a very talented director. I would go so far as to say Zack Snyder is a visionary. However, like other directors that I'm not going to get into, who are sort of auteurs, I suppose, I don't really want Zack Snyder's flavor in certain things. And Superman is one of the things that Zack Snyder's flavor never should have been in.
Yeah, I would agree with that for the most part. I mean, I
There are
thought
things about Man of Steel that are great. Zack Snyder, here is where I accept his vision of what DC is, in that he has a vision.
he does.
Like, whatever you want to say about his DC stuff, he had a story, he had a vision. It is cohesive. You may not like it, but it's cohesive and he stuck to it. And there are so many projects, and again, I'm not going to call stuff out right now, where there was no plan, there was no ongoing story, and it's so evident as they go on. Whereas I respect the fact that he knew what he wanted and he did it. I do think he needed more guidance along the way.
Well, and his take on Superman and then the DC universe is just not one that is aligned with what I love about those characters in that universe.
I agree.
So that's a big, did he do his job of, and did he create, like, did he, fulfill his vision? For the most part, yes. I mean, it's, effective to a point, but it's not one that I would sign off on because it's not the one I want, so
Yeah.
we experience that in other franchises too. You get, and even in comics, you get a writer who just has their take on something and it just doesn't gel with you. So I get that. But at the end of the day, it just means that, those movies are not my thing. They're not my thing, and they're not my Superman, and they're not ones I revisit.
Well, and the big difference with comics is typically if you get a writer or creative team that you don't care for, that lasts like a year. Whereas with these movies, this went on for a decade.
Yeah, I mean, because it starts with Man of Steel, and then we get Superman v Batman, and we get Justice League, and then we get Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's amazing.
But everything had to adhere to that central tone.
It did. Yeah. And, it's amazing that it's amazing to me through all that stuff that we got a great Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
But
one great Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, exactly. But it was nice to see someone come along and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do something completely different with Superman now, or I'm going to bring him back to what I feel like Superman should be, and that more aligns with what I like about the character. So,
and again, to go back to as we said, Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman, wonderful, having a wonderful time in their movies. I will also say that I had few issues with the casting of the Snyder stuff. I think Henry Cavill was great. Yes. I think Ben Affleck is arguably the best on-screen Bruce Wayne and Batman combo. Gal Gadot could not have been any more charming as Wonder Woman.
Right.
So, there are so many aspects of all the hard work that went into making those movies that I appreciate and that deserve a lot of credit. It just wasn't the tone anybody wanted, I don't think. But at the same time, a lot of them were very successful. So,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. More successful than, those were more successful than anything the Fantastic Four tried to do.
Yeah, right.
If we're looking at column A and column B, right, Superman column A still gets it's still bringing in the big bucks, and it's not it might be some fans might be upset, et cetera, et cetera. But the brand is still worldwide, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are still wearing Superman shirts everywhere. Fantastic Four are just like, let's try it again. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. And it really feels like a company trying to squeak out money out of something that they have the rights to before it expires, rather than trying to tell a really great Fantastic Four story.
So that brings us up to the present day, 2025.
I love how you
Where
skipped completely over the other Fantastic Four movie, which I haven't seen, so that's great.
Oh,
That works
that's
for me.
right. Actually, you're right. There was Fantastic, which I don't recommend watching. Again, the cast I loved. If that had not been a Fantastic Four movie, and the studio had not interfered in Josh Trank's vision, I think it would have been really, really good. But as it is just rotten.
Yeah,
And
I've never seen
honestly
it,
not worth.
and probably
No,
not going to ever give it any
no,
time.
it's not worth. The idea of a more Cronenbergian take on Fantastic Four, I think, is great, but you can't do it as a Fantastic Four movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to 2025,
2025.
which, as we mentioned at the beginning of this show, Superman and Fantastic Four come out
If
2
you're
weeks apart.
if you're waiting for us to talk about the new movies, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you gotta lay the foundation. You gotta tell the origin story, which number one point about both of these movies, I think, handled in the best way possible, because neither one of them was an origin story movie. And I
Correct.
think that's a huge part of their. Well, okay, it goes deeper than that. It's not just about the fact that they're not origin story movies. It goes up to the fact that the people creating both of these movies recognize that audiences are ready now. They understand this comic book stuff. They're ready to take, whether it's a pocket universe with all of Lex Luthor's enemies just in cells, or a giant man that's going to eat the earth. Audiences are okay with it now. We don't have to dumb anything down. We don't have to belabor how all of this happened to death. We can just get right to it. And that is one of the biggest assets I think both of these movies had, is understanding the audience was ready.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you get a sense that both directors, both creative teams on both of these movies just didn't. They wanted to get into and tell a story, not the origin story. And whereas for Superman, that seems to make more sense because more people are aware of Superman's origin. Um, Fantastic Four is a bit of a risk, even though there's been, all these iterations that we've mentioned of Fantastic Four. It's not as well known. So it's a bit more of a risk. So I do think that, you do see in the Fantastic Four movie, First Steps, they do spend a little bit more time with the origin, but they do it in such a great and entertaining, fast way that you get caught up no problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, they tell you
absolutely.
everything you need to know in the first 5 minutes with a nice, really, really amazing montage
Ed Sullivan
of
style.
yeah, like it's just a great montage of scenes that pull from so much comic book history that it's just a delight. Like it's just like yeah, I could watch that sequence probably over and over and over and over and over again and just not get tired of it, because it just is great.
Well, and here's how packed that sequence is John Malkovich was in it, and they shot a ton of stuff with him as Red Ghost. And I respect this so much. As much as I lament the loss of any footage with John Malkovich, Matt Shackman, the director, said, we recognized that it was just overstuffed and that the movie benefited from not having that in it. And that kind of discipline, I really, really appreciate.
Yeah, I wish James Gunn had that kind of discipline, because I do think that Superman is a little bit bloated.
Oh, interesting.
I do. It's got a lot of characters that take away from Superman, the main character, and it's got some characters that are just in there for no other reason than to what? I mean, yeah. I mean, you got Cat Grant and Steve Lombard in there. Why? No reason. No reason. Unless it's to lead them to a Daily Planet show, like to sow the seeds for a Daily Planet show later on, or for them to appear in other things. They're in the third act. They're in the third act. They're in the vehicle with Lois and Perry and Jimmy, but they do nothing. There's no reason to have them there. It's, it's just like we don't. I get the feeling watching James Gunn's Superman that, which I enjoyed, by the way. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy it, but I got the feeling while I was watching that James Gunn was like, all right, sat down. He's like, I'm going to make my ultimate Superman movie. And he made it, and it was like 5 hours long. And he's like, well, I can't do that. So then he took some stuff out, and he took some stuff out, and he took some more stuff out. Like, I mean, I'm convinced that the stuff with the dimension, the pocket dimension, everything, those look a lot like boom tubes. And I'm just like, I wonder if there was supposed to be an apocalypse stuff and references and stuff like that. But he just kind of said, nope, can't do that. So they just whittled it down. A Justice Gang, like I wanted the Justice League in here. No, I can't do that. Oh, just have a Justice League of 3 guys, 3 people. Okay, we'll just do 3. Like it just felt like everything, like he was gonna do, like he just reduced everything, and I think he could have reduced it even more because there were just some things in there that I just felt was a little bloated. Like I said, the stuff with Cat Grant and Steve Lombard, I'm like, I don't know why they're in this movie at all. I mean, they're not terrible, but they just serve no purpose. And it's like rule of storytelling. If it doesn't serve a purpose, get it out of there.
Wow. I don't agree with any of that, which is fun. Well, it's not that I don't agree with it. That's not how I perceived any of that. Now, with Cat Grant, I suppose I can probably agree with. To the plot.
Yeah, would it matter if they were not in the vehicle?
Well, Cat Grant, I can't see any way that her presence affected the plot. Steve, however, to me helped establish Clark's character in that he had this sort of antagonist that he had to, like, it helped establish that Clark is not like top dog at the Daily Planet. He had to lower himself to deal with this bully type character, which of course was this character's purpose in the comic books as well, to show you like, yes, Clark has to be humble. He has to bite his tongue. He has to deal with this buffoon. Like that's where that was valuable in building the character of Clark Kent.
In the first act,
he made sense to me.
Not needed in the third act.
But it didn't take away from the third act to me.
But it's not a question.
As a matter of fact, the fact that he doesn't get a seat, just the comedy of him. Why don't I have a seat? And then when they take off, he gets his comeuppance to a degree at that point. Like that to me is worth it because the pacing of the movie. I watched it. I was fortunate enough to be able to see it 2 nights in a row, which cool. I haven't seen. I haven't watched a movie twice in a row. I couldn't tell you. It's been 20 years, 25 years. I don't know. Because I took the family to see it Tuesday night for the special early screening. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the cast and crew screening at the Fox in Atlanta. A friend of ours had a couple of +1s. So me and Ryan were able to go down there.
Sweet.
And that was an incredible experience. And I will tell you this. I was concerned about, because there was no way I wasn't going to take the family to see it. That's the priority. So we go Tuesday night. And I was, prior to that, I was like, man, what if I don't want to see this movie twice in a row? Like, it may be really, really good, but seeing a movie 2 nights in a row it's a big ask. At this point in my life, that time, anyway.
Sure, I get it.
And as soon as the credits rolled Tuesday night, I was like, I cannot fucking wait to see this again. Every minute of it felt I can't say every minute of it felt important, but every minute of it I found entertaining. Uh, what you call bloat, I call doing everything you can to build a new world and to help people help our audience who has been watching this other thing for the last 12 years understand that this is different, that people act differently, that this world is different, that yes, Lex Luthor just says, oh, I made a pocket dimension, and that's the world that we're in now. We don't need to explain how he did that, how that
Right.
happened, what that
Right.
is. We're just there with it. Like, I loved, again, that just respect for the audience seems a little too kowtowy to me, but the expectation that audience, you better grab that cape and you better hang on. And if
Yeah.
you do, you're going to be rewarded for it. That's how I felt.
I mean, I agree with that for the most part. I mean, the movie moves. I've only I only got to see it once, but I was smiling the entire time. I mean, I enjoyed it. But
And the
then
Justice
looking,
Gang stuff,
but
I
the looking
I
back on it now, I was like, man, there just seems to be like a lot of things that he's, if he's sowing seeds for stuff that's happening later, then he's not. Yeah, a lot of this stuff seems like he pulled back on it a bit, if at all. But um,
see, to me it all just felt like, I want you to understand this world exists. We've
no,
already
I
got
mean
Green Lantern. We've already
that's
got
the
Hawkgirl. We've already got Mr. Terrific, which, by the way, Mr. Terrific, dangerously close to being the star of the show.
well, not the star of the show, but he almost steals it, right? Like he's not the star. It's not called like he doesn't have a whole arc. He doesn't like, go through, but he has the best action sequence in a movie that's Superman's movie. He has like, and he's cool, and he almost like, he almost Batman's the movie, right? Like
Yeah,
he's like
yeah.
Batman, almost like a Batman equivalent. Like he's the smart guy. He's the guy who's like no nonsense. He's like sort of a fill-in for Batman here, and it works. I mean, he's great. It's the best. I mean, I've seen Mr. Terrific on TV and stuff, but a version of that. But I mean, this was really great. And I will say most of the characters were really well cast and well done. Like I did enjoy most of their appearances.
Well, and
Um,
I felt like, aside from Cat Grant, everybody was important to the plot. You could not remove any of these supporting characters. They all had Lois, for the first time ever. Lois was critical to the plot.
um, and she's
E-
critical to the plot of Superman 2, but go ahead.
Everybody, well, yeah, not in a positive way.
Not
Um,
in your mind a positive way, but it's
uh,
still
but
it's still important.
all of these characters, from Superman to Lois to Jimmy, obviously Lex, and then all the Justice Gang, like, everybody had what were important roles to play. Nobody was in there just because, oh, I like Hawk Girl. Like, everybody had a very specific role to play, and if you removed them, the movie wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say that about Hawk Girl. What does she do that nobody else could have done? Like I don't know.
She
Like if you take her out, like what is she?
she takes out the president of evil country that certainly doesn't bear any resemblance to any real world country.
So you're saying like nobody else could have done that? Like that was a big arc for her? Like
It
it
doesn't
wasn't really.
seem
We
like,
don't.
well, no. I'm not talking about arcs. I'm talking about importance to the plot.
I mean, yeah, she does
Arcs
that, but I don't.
arcs are, this is where, because you said Mr. Terrific doesn't really have a story. That's right, he doesn't, because the story focus is on Superman. Superman is the one with a story in this movie. Everybody else is supporting his story.
Yeah, well, Lex has
Well, and
has a
Lex, you're
story.
right, Lex. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is
Lex
Superman
and
and
Superman.
Lex.
Yeah, and I will say, above all, James Gunn gets a lot of stuff right. he infuses Superman with a sense of hope, a sense of I don't want to say innocence, but a sense of goodness that it it
Purity, a
it it
purity.
it just it's corny, but that's what it works. And you put characters like Lois and Lex and Guy Gardner next to him, and they look they make him look like not, I mean, they're doing not so good stuff, but um but it doesn't diminish what Clark is. It doesn't diminish his role, and instead they all admire his goodness. Even Lex, like this, because that's what's driving him
Oh,
crazy.
it's jealousy.
He cannot stand how good he is, because in his mind the world just doesn't work like that. This is probably the best Lex I've ever seen. Like,
Because
this
he's
is
pure evil.
he's purely evil, but he's he's oh so relatable in
You
this
you get where he's
world we get.
coming from,
His
but
whole
he
team
is
of
not
techs,
sympathetic.
his whole team of techs, which these guys don't really care. Like, they don't hate Superman. They Lex just put an impossible problem in front of them, and that's all they care about, is
Yes.
wanting to like do the impossible, like kill somebody who can't be killed. That's what they signed up for, because that's their job. And I love how they get off on it, and that's what a lot of these tech bros do. They get off
Yes.
on that stuff, and we all know tech people who do things because they can, not because they should, right? Like,
Well, it's the same concept as owning the libs.
Yeah.
But it's owning Superman.
Absolutely. It's just and so I think the one thing that, the difference, if we're talking about differences between, we haven't even got into Fantastic Four yet, but if we're talking about differences between Fantastic Four and Superman, James Gunn takes the approach of, let me put Superman in a world where we all, it's hard to relate to him because he's so good and he wants to do the right thing, but the world's not like that. But it should be, because Superman is like that, and that should be something to aspire to. Fantastic Four has a different take on that altogether. Like, Fantastic Four is not that world, because Fantastic Four shows us a world where we should all aspire to, period. Like, the whole world should be something that we aspire to, whereas Superman is just one man that we should aspire to, because, like, he's just a good guy. And isn't it great that he's doing what he's doing, and any sort of attempt to tarnish him should be met with, like, the most resistance possible, and is evil, really is evil.
Not to pull the rug out from under an excellent segue, because we really should just move to Fantastic Four after that. But I have to say, David Cornsweet, I think what makes his Superman so good and so different is we get to see him angry and frustrated in a way that we really haven't seen before, and that makes him more relatable. He gets so mad about how he's just trying to do right, but the perception, the interview scene with Lois
is great.
Might be one of my favorite things I've seen in a superhero movie. And obviously there's a little halo effect to that, but my gosh, his emotion there, we get to see him being truly human, which of course the story of the movie is that is his superpower. But also in a little, a little different take, this Superman fucks. Like, it's not his relationship with Lois. It's not these little chaste kisses or this little, oh, Miss Lane, which was wonderful for Christopher Reeve. But, here, when these two interact physically, there's passion.
Yeah.
There's love.
That's
and
true.
again, it makes him more human, and that is so very effective at just drawing the audience in and making us really care more about this character, because that's the common complaint about Superman. Oh, he's a god. It's boring. He can just do anything. Oh, which is a dumb complaint. We know it.
it's
But making him more relatable it just
it is
works
a
so
dumb
well.
complaint, and I have it's one that I hear a lot of creators bark about too. It's like, oh man, I'd never want to write Superman because what can you do with the guy? He can do anything. Like, it's just like, that's just no challenge or whatever. I like how Gunn starts the movie by
Yes.
him like suffering his first loss, and then throughout the rest of the movie, Superman gets beat up. I think he gets beat up more in this movie than any other movie that he's ever been in.
Mhm.
Because Gunn takes that theory of like, oh well, he's indestructible, you can't hurt him, like what, instead he's like, challenge accepted, I will beat the snot out of this guy, and he does. And he does not come across as a guy who can he can overcome things, but it's not a guy who just like is impervious to everything.
Well,
It's like it is not. Gunn is, in a lot of ways, Gunn is giving a big finger to Snyder's version, and I'm all for it, actually.
You know what's so important about that opening scene, and why I think it was done? Yes, right out of the gate, he's just gotten his ass beat. So we're seeing a more vulnerable Superman than we've ever seen. But also, what happens right after that? He gets up, he's got a positive attitude, and he's got to get back to it.
Yep.
Got to put the boots back on. And we get a couple of great scenes of like when Ma Kent, which, by the way, his parents in this.
Great.
I love that they're just provincial, right? Like, they're not, these incredibly well-spoken, super wise, like they're provincial, good old American USA parents that
Absolutely.
I think Ma and Pa Kent were always meant to be, but the media has always felt the pressure of like, well, they need to be these inspirational, aspirational figures, which these two were wonderful, but just in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you have to do stunt casting. I mean, Kevin Costner's, and is the last one that we got before this, and it's just like, you couldn't. Again, Gunn is going, F you to Snyder. It's like, I'm not gonna. I don't need to hire Kevin Costner to be my nobody. He and I like that too. They did have a authenticity to them.
Yes.
Dude,
when she's talking to him on the phone, and her phone is on the coffee table, and she's leaning over. Oh, that's so real.
I love
so
that.
real.
Yeah. I love that. There was a couple of people I talked to that didn't like that scene, but I was like, no, that works for me, because that's what she would do. That's what.
Yes.
I know that. I know that woman. Know that woman.
And again, it's making that relatability.
Absolutely. Right. And it's really, I think it's really, too, this is where Gunn puts that too. And he goes, oh, you want stunt casting? Jor-El.
Yeah.
Like, I'll make Jor-El and his wife, like, the main, like, big actors that everybody recognizes. Well, maybe not so much Lara, but Bradley Cooper, I mean, he's no Marlon Brando, but man, he's right up there, right? So it's like, that's the guy, and that's the guy that is going to be.
He's got the goods, though, man. Have you seen the Star is Born remake?
Yeah, it's great. No, he's good.
He's legit.
I wasn't ragging on his acting ability. I was just saying, like, money wise and status wise. I mean, Marlon Brando is like an iconic, like, figure, whereas Bradley Cooper is pretty popular and everything and well known, and is not going to ask for $1 bazillion to do 5 minutes, right?
But well, and they're also buddies.
But I like the take that they do here, and yeah, I do like, for the most part, I do like James Gunn's buddies, so I give him a pass for the most part. But sometimes it's like, do all your buddies have to be in everything? Like, like, it just, it's sometimes it just seems to be a bit too much. It's like, I'm going to put all my friends in everything. But at least in this, I didn't feel like the story or anything suffered from
I have no problem with that because it's exactly what I would do.
it.
It's what I do. It's exactly what I do.
That's why I'm here.
Now, granted, there's no money at stake, but
Yeah.
So we got to talk. Obviously, we need to talk about Fantastic Four a little bit more. So 2 weeks after Superman came out, which will, I'm sure we'll end up talking about Superman a little bit more, but Fantastic Four, that in a weird way, the stakes almost feel higher because if Superman hadn't been a success, then it just would have been, oh, well, that's DC is what it is.
That's true.
But
Yeah,
Fantastic Four, Marvel hit this epic high with Endgame, and ever since has been
tripping over themselves.
Yeah, there've been some lows and there've been some almost highs, but I don't think they've hit anywhere near the heights of the pre-Endgame era of the MCU, and they've certainly lost a lot of people's faith in them. So this Fantastic Four movie had a lot riding on it to the point where, and look, I am not an MCU hater in any way, shape, or form. Some of the stuff they've done in the last few years I haven't cared for, but in a, oh, this isn't for me way, not in a ha ha ha, they're failing now way. You know what I mean?
I do.
Like everything that they've put out, I've been able to look at and say, I can see where this was coming from and who this should appeal to, as opposed to like, there hasn't been anything where I've just been like, oh, this is bad. Well, no, there was one, but I won't say which one. So Fantastic Four.
I have one in mind. I wonder if it's the same one.
Is it recent?
Not this year.
Oh, you know what? Let's spill the tea. Let's spill the tea. That's what the people are here for. I'm gonna tell you right now, that last Captain America movie I thought was just hot garbage.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Captain America movie.
Not.
I did not enjoy Secret Invasion show.
Oh, Secret Invasion was
terrible.
That
to me was the lowest point that the MCU has gotten. But
I think the last Captain America was probably lower. No, it was about equal ground with Secret Invasion. I thought those were just. I take it back. Those were bad, in my opinion. To me, those were bad. But then there's been other, like, I loved The Marvels. I absolutely love that movie, and it did not do well, and people did not love it. So I mean, there's been, for me personally, there've been highs.
Yeah, you have to see something to love it, and I don't think a lot of people saw it. For various reasons, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, they've stumbled, and but the bottom line is that the public has lost confidence in the MCU, and they needed a home run. And I think they got it with Fantastic Four. I mean, I can't imagine it being better.
No, I can't either. And I've had this conversation with a couple of people before tonight. I kind of wish this was just a soft reboot, and that
it kind of is.
But we're bringing elements. The MCU is still around. We're still beholden to all of that.
Yeah, but for how long?
Well, supposedly, I mean, nobody has said anything for sure, but we have Doomsday, and then we've got Secret War,
right?
That may or may not be plural. I can't ever remember because there have been so many of them. And then after that, we don't know exactly what's happening.
Right. There does seem to be something coming that's going to reboot the MCU.
Well, I mean, if they follow the storyline that leads to the last Secret War, whatever the Secret War was with the Battle Worlds, which is the impression that I get.
Yeah, something similar. I mean, we hear about massive casting and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, we can talk about the plans going forward, because one thing I will say about, Superman movie is that afterwards I'm like, okay, what's next? And I'm I'm like, I can't believe like you guys put out this great movie and now you don't have a plan for what's next. Like James Gunn's like, I don't know what my next project's going to be. I mean, I think he knows, but he's
Oh
not
no, he
announcing it.
knows.
And I'm like, you need to announce it, buddy. Like you need to like.
Well, I mean, we do know.
We know we're
Peacemaker
getting.
season 2 is coming. Supergirl is after that.
Yeah, but those aren't
Um,
big. Those not that. I mean, that's not like James Gunn is part of that, but he's not directing those.
oh, you want to know specifically what he's doing next?
Yeah, James Gunn hasn't said what he's directing next.
No, he hasn't.
There should be an announcement like Superman 2 is coming, like is on the way, like that, or but yet we're not getting that. Like I
That's
don't
an
know why.
interesting point, because Riley and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. He's much more immersed in it than I am at this point. He keeps up with right now he's rereading or reading for the first time. He's reading all of the original Silver Surfer comics. He's gotten really deep into the Cosmic Marvel stuff.
Cool.
And he just told me earlier today, he was like, did you know that the first Silver Surfer comic is 50 pages? And I'm not sure I can read 50 pages of Stan Lee's writing in one sitting. And I said, no, you probably shouldn't try that.
That's why you have Kirby's art.
Yeah.
Because that helps you through that.
So anyway, he keeps up with everything now. But to your point, not everybody does. And in order to keep the momentum, in order to keep people, the general public, invested in what's next after this Superman, you're right. There should be. I'm in a difficult position here because I'm at a point where I'm so sick of video games and movies and toy companies announcing plans way too far out.
Yeah.
And then things get delayed. Things never happen. Things change. Like, it is frustrating to hear, oh, well, there's going to be a Rogue Squadron movie, in 2026.
Yeah, the Star Wars stuff is just awful.
6 months later, you hear, oh, never mind, that's not happening fucking at all. Like, there's a fine line between keeping the public invested, but also creating this cycle of disappointment.
Sure. And I get the fact that, Gunn's DCU is in the early stages and they might be a little reluctant to announce things and go full bore on it until they see what Superman does. But we're like, it's been about a month, and I think we can say that this has been a pretty good debut for Superman. We know Supergirl's coming. To be honest with you, when I saw Supergirl at the end of Superman, I was not loving it. But then,
I loved it.
It wasn't until I found out about Woman of Tomorrow and what Tom King was doing, what he did in his miniseries and everything, that I said, oh, that's an interesting take on her. But we have never seen that. The average person hasn't seen that, and they might be put off by that. So
but the average person probably doesn't know anything about Supergirl in the first place. The average person?
Well, I don't know. There's been, there's a Supergirl series.
Average person at this point in time probably hasn't even seen Justice League Unlimited, which I would argue, or not. Wait, was she even in Justice League Unlimited? She was more in Superman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is probably her highest profile to the general public today.
Not her series?
Huh?
Not her series that ran for like 5 years?
I never hear anybody talk about that.
I think the thing is that, Supergirl, the idea is that Supergirl is like Superman. And this shows us that she's not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tell us why. I think when we get trailers and stuff like that and people get it, like, I think that'll help. But I think I couldn't help but be like, me personally, I was like, whoa, what is this? And You know, I started to like go, what is going on here? And it wasn't until I found out afterwards, like, okay, I see what they're going to do. That I'm on board for that. But it did put me off because look, I mean, James Gunn's got that reputation, and not everything needs to be Peacekeeper or Suicide Squad or like James Gunn. Like, I think he toned it down for Superman a lot, which is great because he needed to. There's still more people say the word shit in this version than of any other version of Superman combined, but still, like, but Superman never says it, which is great. It's like James Gunn knows not to do that, right? James Gunn's like, I'm not going to have Superman say the word shit. He'll just say golly gee or whatever he says, and so he can still be Superman. But I think that, so right now, if you look at what's on their slate, it's Supergirl and then Clayface. Now, tell me you can be excited about that. Like, tell me that's like
okay.
those are
Well,
the next. That's like the DC.
I am
like,
excited about that, but the general public, no.
Right.
So yeah, I am very curious to see how that plays out. But also, we have to keep in mind that James Gunn's hard rule is we don't move on anything until the script is done.
Yeah, well, get to
And
work,
I
man.
think that's smart. But you're right. Something needs to be done to catch this momentum and keep it up.
Yeah, he's got also a huge Batman problem.
Yeah, he's got a really big Batman problem in that I really enjoyed the Batman, but at this point, I do not give a shit about the follow up to the Batman.
I think it's been too long. Like, they keep delaying it, and I think maybe that's what he's trying to do, is delay it so much that it just people won't care, and Matt Reeves will move on to something else. Because certainly I don't see that Batman in this universe. So what does Batman look like?
He said it will be a different Batman.
So what does Batman
but he
look
also
like?
said, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it was a week after Superman released, he said that Matt Reeves had turned in a script. And that's the first time Matt Reeves has turned in a script. And I'll tell you right now, as much as creator vision important to me, if it takes you, I am not a writer. I don't know what goes into writing a script, but I'll tell you right now, the flow of ideas in my head is nonstop. And because we all fantasy speculate about movies, how we'd make things, TV shows, whatever, all the time. I'll tell you right now, when I think of a movie idea, I am also thinking of the next 3 movies. I just don't. If you take, I don't think he's making the best use of his time. I'm not sure how.
I don't know.
To say
I don't know what's going on there. I just don't know. Like, I hear different things, and I'm not close enough to know exactly what's going on.
Sure, none of us are.
I've heard Reeves is like doing this and it got turned down, or tried this and it got turned down, or I don't know. So the bottom line is, though,
not interested enough in making another Batman movie to have the script ready a long time ago, then he shouldn't make another Batman movie.
But I don't. Yeah, that's it. I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, and we don't know. It's all speculation. It's just like anything else. None of us are close enough to the inside to know.
So, but the question is like, that's the big DCU character that everybody cares about, and that's a problem. So sometime soon, James Gunn is going to have to try to figure out that problem, and because he can't keep putting in Batman wannabes. I mean, I love Mr. Terrific in this, but he's pretty much a Batman wannabe in this. And
well, I mean, they've announced intentions anyway for
and I don't know how you make a Clayface movie without Batman.
We should have I mean, who says you do?
So I mean, there's a lot of things.
Finest, there's a Batman and Robin movie, and there's, I think, a World's Finest movie.
Yeah, but I heard all that. I don't know. That's one of those things that I hear stuff on, and then I hear nothing's happened. Like, I don't, we don't know. So,
yeah.
So anyway, Fantastic Four doesn't have like, this is obviously MCU. I think this is Kevin Feige is like, all right, forget about the rest of the stuff that we've done. You might see some of that incorporate. We might incorporate some of that stuff going forward. We might not. We'll see. But right now we've got a plan, and it starts with Fantastic Four. That's why it's called First Steps. I mean, obviously it has triple meanings, right? Like First Steps, and it's a movie about Franklin, so it's got that knock and that in meaning to it as well. So we've got a lot of stuff going on, but if you want to get in on what's going to happen with the MC, if you want to get excited by it, this is the first chapter in whatever phase we're on now, 58.
Yeah.
I'm not sure or not. So like it all starts here, and it's interesting because it doesn't start in 616. It doesn't start on our like the Earth that we've been hanging around with. It doesn't start off with characters that we hang out with. It doesn't start with anybody that we've known. It starts off on a variant world that we've never seen before. Well, yeah, that we've never seen before.
Earth
And
828.
828, which is great, a great number for Kirby's birthday, and reintroduces the world to this version of the Fantastic Four, which I think is one of the most compelling Fantastic Four versions we've ever seen. I love this version, even though it's not the Fantastic Four characters that I grew up with. They're all slightly different.
Oh, that's very interesting.
But what Kevin Feige has managed to do with the MCU is give us, it's like we get to have our cake and eat it too, because he gives us these things that we remember, that we can recognize from as comic readers, but they put a different spin on it, and it works. Iron Man, it works. Thor, it worked. Like it's worked for those characters, and he does the same thing with Fantastic Four. This is not a Fantastic Four that we've seen before. This is
Isn't it crazy that we had Iron Man's entire arc, and everybody was like, "Oh, it'll be interesting when they get to the drinking problem." Remember,
they spent like 5 minutes on it, right?
The first movie came out, and that was like, "Oh, that story is going to be interesting," especially Robert Downey Jr. That's like the whole reason they cast him, was because that was going to be so, such a big deal. And then it really was barely even a factor in his entire story arc in the MCU. Isn't that funny looking back on that?
Yeah, absolutely. They subverted expectations, and yet they met them at the same time. They managed. They did it with the Guardians of the Galaxy as well. I mean, some of these characters are not characters straight out of the comics. They're just, but they have they're familiar enough, and they work well enough that it just works. It's amazing to me. I mean, this Reed Richards is not the Reed Richards that I grew up with. This Sue Storm is certainly not. She's way better. Ben Grimm is completely different, and Johnny is completely different. It's like an amazing, but yet I'm watching this, and I still really are engaged with them as characters. I recognize moments from the comics that they're reliving. It's just a little bit a different take on them. One thing I will say about the Fantastic Four too that's different about Superman is that visually there's a lot of callbacks to things in the comics, like things like covers and situations and everything.
Yes.
Like I remember that from the comic. I remember in Superman, nothing. There's nothing from the comics that you can't go, oh, that scene is straight out of that book, or that scene is, or he's trying to do that cover. Heck, he never even pulls his shirt open, the iconic shirt opening. He never even does that. Like, this is a completely new take on Gunn. Is like, I'm doing my own thing. I'm not using those stuff as stuff that all that stuff's been done before and done 100 times. Like, I'm just doing my own thing. And
yet they did still use the John Williams music. Sure, in my opinion, maybe a little much.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it works. But I think Fantastic Four did a great there's a big joke going around where like everybody is saying like, oh, I saw the Fantastic Four and it was fantastic, right? Well, my take on it is I saw the Fantastic Four and it was incredible, because what Disney did is like, we knew what the Fantastic Four was like and how it works because we made two Incredibles movies. And we learned about how to make that work through the Incredibles movies. Most people, like a lot of people, will say like the two best Fantastic Four movies are called Incredibles, Incredibles 2, right? Because they pull a lot of things from the Fantastic Four and use them very well. And that's exactly what this movie does too. It like says, hey, we're going to take that 50s, that 60s aesthetic. We're going to mix that in. We're going to get the same guy to do the music, Michael Giacchino, and he's great. We're going to have him come and do stuff. We're going to make it all about family. Like it's going to start, Superman starts with Superman getting beat up and going straight into battle. Fantastic Four starts with Reed looking for something in the medicine
being
cabinet.
late for family dinner that is presented as this like critical. Reed's never late for dinner. Like it is. Like, you're right. Like, it is completely about family.
It's about family, and Sue then announcing that she's pregnant. Like that's the big thing that happens there, right in the beginning. And so it just goes from like the family is growing, and it's all about family, and it just works. I love this iteration of the Fantastic Four where Sue is the leader. Sue is the one making the decision.
Regina Kirby was the standout of this movie.
She was, and she's written that way too. I mean, obviously she takes it and goes with it and runs with it. And that's great, but the role is also the most prominent role this is the most prominent that Sue's ever been. I mean, I think in the comics she's led the team a few times, but here this is the first time where she's the leader.
Yeah,
she's the one that goes out and works. Reed is like a stay-home guy. He like is doing stuff like working from home.
Which makes sense though, because he's preoccupied with his science stuff. I really so Pedro Pascal, as much as I love him, I was not totally on board with his casting because I just didn't see it because of the characters we've seen him play. But I loved him as Reed Richards.
Because he's not playing the Reed Richards that you think of.
He has, I feel like there are a couple of times where we see flashes of Reed's sort of latent egomaniacal bent. But in a way, he almost seems on the spectrum a bit with the way that he focuses.
Absolutely.
And
they don't really embrace that notion, but it's there. If you see, like, if you know.
Yes. If you recognize that sort of focus that he has in the movie, that's how it struck me, and it was just fantastically and subtly done. Mm-hmm. And to go through the characters, Johnny, really, really different. He still has that I'm a superstar quality, but he's not like the womanizer.
He's no Jimmy Olsen.
No. But see, to me, with the Jimmy Olsen thing, that struck me as the weirdness of the old Jimmy Olsen comics. Like, we'll go back to Superman in a bit because we haven't given Fantastic Four their fair time at this point. But Johnny in this one, the actor, Joseph Quinn. Okay, I don't think this means anything. It's just something that I noticed. To me, he looked exactly like a young Robert Downey Jr., but with blonde hair.
I actually heard people mention that, and I guess it's there, but I don't know. It's possible.
I don't think it has any significance. It's just something that I was like, wow. There's
enough people that have mentioned it to make me think that maybe they're going to do something with it, but I don't know. I mean, who knows? But like in this world, I don't know. Anyway,
Right. It's so baffling. We can't even speculate about what it could
right,
possibly be. And
right.
then,
But I love the fact that Johnny, like you're right, because usually he's depicted. That's why I love the Chris Evans Johnny, because that's the Johnny from the comics.
right, the flashy superstar.
I'm like God's gift to women. I
Right.
love this thing. I love, like, I have my ego and da da da. I'm a hothead, sure, and and this Johnny is much more focused. He's not.
He has that quality, but it's tempered.
Not even really. I mean, when Sue says, "Hey, he's single," I mean, he shies away from the camera. He's like, "Oh, why'd you do that, Sue?" Not the Johnny I've known always would embrace that and be like, "Hey, girls, come and here's my number." Like put his number on the screen. Like this Johnny like kind of shies away, and he's really. I kind of wish this movie, Fantastic Four. I thought, okay, so I called Superman a little bit. I called it a little bloated, right? I think Fantastic Four is too short. I think I would have loved to have more time with some of these characters, particularly Johnny and particularly Ben, because I do think they get kind of the short end a little bit. And I would have loved at least 10, 15 more minutes with not necessarily them together, but them doing other stuff, because I was really fascinated by this take on them, because Johnny, for some reason, has this yearning to go back into space, and what is that about? And it manifests itself with him being attracted to this voice from the void and from space. And
isn't it interesting that he's the one that figured out the language, that they gave cool. That part of the plot to him?
I think it's awesome that he's the one that they did that, because you wouldn't think of Johnny usually doing that, because Johnny's like a young hothead that can't focus on anything, right? But this guy is completely in love with the idea of space, and then when it manifests it, that's why some people were like, why is it a woman surfer this time? And like, that's why. I mean, you could make it like the regular Silver Surfer, but that means that Johnny would be gay. And I don't think they'd really ready to cross that line.
Well, but either way, I mean, there's a precedent. A female has been the
doesn't
Silver
matter
Surfer
if there's a precedent
in the past.
or not. And it doesn't matter. But for the story's sake, he falls in love with her because of what she represents, and because of it just falls in line with what his desires are anyway. But we don't really. But see, that's just it. We don't really know where that comes from. We could spend a little bit more time with that. And the same thing with Ben. Ben, the Thing usually is the star of the show. Like in almost every incarnation of the Fantastic Four, including the comics, like I said, he had his own title for a while. He had his own cartoon for a while. He's usually portrayed as the loud guy, the gruff guy, it's clobbering time guy, the quick to action guy. This is the most soft-spoken Ben that we've ever had. He's so quiet, and he seems more comfortable in the kitchen than he is like on the battlefield. And he doesn't seem cursed.
He doesn't seem as tortured by his condition.
Right. There's moments of it there, but I would really like to find out more about that. In fact, there's this one really nice scene with him and Reed where he tells Reed, he's like, man, you got to get over it. You're not to blame for what happened to us, which is great. But the Ben in the comics didn't make that connection for years. And it's kind of like, well, why is he okay with it? But then he has like issues with, he goes to Yancey Street and he's playing around with his old neighborhood, but you can tell he kind of still is like, I don't feel like, I'm attracted to this woman. Great appearance by Natasha Lyonne, was surprised the heck out of me, and she's great in this.
Super underused in this though. Like,
well, that's just it. I wish we could have had a couple more scenes with them. Like, that's just like, I want more scenes with Ben, and really in the main battles, Ben doesn't really do a lot. And usually he's the guy that really, brings the power. Now he's really strong. I was kind of struck by how strong he was. There's that one scene in the beginning where he's kind of lifting where he's carrying not a
The
tugboat.
ship.
It's like a
He's
huge
pulling the
ship.
ship into the harbor.
And
Yeah.
that's like, I'm like, holy crap, how strong is this guy? Like, this guy is like the strongest thing that we've ever seen, maybe. Um, but we don't get that. And so we've got these four characters that are variations that we've gotten before, but they really, really work in this setting. And I just give them a lot of credit for taking the chance to get it right, to make them, even though they're different than we've seen before, they still work. And I love that.
So two things. Uh, one of the issues the MCU has had over the years is the visual effects have not been consistently good from movie to movie. There have been some where things have just stood out as being subpar. Now, whether it's because things were rushed or whatever the case may be, this, I don't think there was 1 second where what was on the screen looked anything less than great.
Yeah, I think the look of the whole look, and not just the style of it, and everything about it looked really, really polished and really well done. In fact, it might have one of my favorite visual scenes of all time now. The scene where the four get off the ship and then go they're on Galactus's ship, and they go to meet Galactus. The reveal of Galactus is so gorgeous and terrifying and ominous and
Epic.
everything that it should be. And you're like, this shouldn't work.
Yeah.
Years ago they were like, there's no way you can make this work because it's a guy in a suit, and it's a big guy in a big helmet, and nobody's going to buy that. It's gonna look terrible no matter what we do. Well, no, because oh, that the reveal of Galactus is one of my favorite shots of, like, maybe of all time. I'd put it up there because it is so awe-inspiring. It's just awesome.
That and some other points in this movie almost felt like Stanley Kubrick stuff.
Yeah, but there's a lot of a lot of it's funny you mentioned that because Stanley Kubrick obviously famously did 2001, and who did 2001 the comic? Kirby, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of Kirby visuals in this that I think really, the director and the art direction of this movie really, really took Kirby to a whole other level.
And not even necessarily his style, just as much as the scope of what Kirby was able to put on the page.
Yeah,
Everything had this epicness to it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I thought it was great, and I love the whole. I, I saw some criticism of the movie, particularly, like the scene where they get back from seeing Galactus, and they're instantly thrown into a press conference, which they're not ready for. And Reed just tells everybody, like, he's just like, yeah, we met Galactus. He wants our son, and he'll let the Earth live. And he tells everybody, and I've seen so much criticism about that. Like, why did he do that? He's not that stupid.
Because
And I'm
that's
like,
this world.
that's what I'm saying. In this, that's what my feeling is too, because it would never occur to the Reed Richards in this world to
Right.
lie
Right.
to the public. It would never
Yes.
occur to him,
It's
because
almost
that's
like
just not the way that works. That's not the way this world works. This world works where, I mean, when Sue says, uh, "I'm not going to give up my baby for this world, but I'm not going to give up this world for my baby," it really rings so true, and it's just a great speech, and it's a great moment, and the world comes together in a way that you only wish we could even dream of aspiring to.
that's there's so many, and well, I don't want to get into it. We don't have time to get into it. But obviously, with Superman, there's so many statements about what's going on in the world today.
Right.
But in Fantastic Four, I feel the same way in that exactly what you're talking about right now, the concept of imagine if we could trust our leaders.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, why is that such a far-fetched, fanciful thought? But that's what this movie is saying. Like, my gosh, we had to set this in a different reality so you'd be able to grasp the concept of these people trust their leaders.
And even then, I've seen heavy criticism about like, oh, that's not very realistic. That's not what.
That's the point.
That's the point. Is that
Yeah.
we should be aspiring to this. It's
Yes.
the same thing with Star Trek, or what Star Trek should
Right.
be. It's
Right.
like that's what we should aspire to. It shouldn't reflect what we are. It should be something that we watch and we go, I want to be like that. The
Yes.
world should be like that. I wish the world was like that. How can I make the world like that and help make the world like that? Now, unfortunately, I get the feeling that we're not going to see this world much. Like this is going to be our one shot at seeing 828, and then you know, then that's that. I don't know what's going to happen. But
I'd be fine with just transplanting our favorites over to this reality and moving on from there.
Which is weird because, you know, I think, and the writers of the original DC, Justice League and Avengers comic, I think that was Kurt Busiek, right? Like really got it right, because I love their take on the difference between DC and Marvel universes.
Yeah.
Is that the DC universe was this idealistic universe where people trusted Batman, people trusted Superman, the people loved Superman, people loved the Justice League. And sure, there were times when they didn't, but for the most part, they idolize their vigilante heroes, their heroes. Whereas the Marvel universe was like, no, we don't trust anybody. This is much more like real life. Like I just got to make ends meet, and I don't know what's going on. I don't trust my neighbor, and I don't do like the Marvel universe was full of that. And you know, it's interesting that now we have a situation where the DC movie is more like real life than the Marvel movie that we get, which is more fantastic, which it's in the title, guys. Fantastic, right? This is a fantasy.
So I want to bring up, we haven't seen eye to eye on everything, and I'm curious to get your take on something that actually bothered me about Fantastic Four. And it's the tiniest little thing, but it did bug me. In this fantastical universe, I really didn't like the Thing not wanting to say it's clobbering time. That to me felt like 20 years ago, embarrassed of comic books. I didn't like that aspect of it.
Yeah, it might have been a case where they went too far. That's why I wish we spent more time with him, because we don't know what I just never really felt like I could really get into Ben's head in this. And like I said, usually he's the star of the show, which you know, he should be, but I think out of all the characters, he gets the short straw, and it's unfortunate, but I don't know if hopefully at some point we'll get more character development with him. But yeah, it could have been a case of like, because, you know, when he finally says it, it did feel really contrived and it didn't feel like it was earned.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It felt like, well, we know we have to have him say it, so let's do it. Which again, like I said, feels like 20 years ago comic book movie. It doesn't feel like where we're at now.
So and my other favorite sequence in this, involving Galactus, is because we don't see him do it very often, but in the final battle or whatever, you know, they're all using their powers, and Reed does stretch quite a bit. He doesn't stretch as much as you would think he would in the rest of the movie, but in that third act he does. But that sequence where Galactus is stretching him out,
yes,
is just, I think, one of the most painful things I've ever seen. Like, it just looked, I mean, I was like, this is so well done that I'm feeling every single part of this like rubber band stretch thing. It just, I was so concerned for him.
Well, all of them, and this really, I mean, it's the script, but it's also the performances because, and again, Ben really didn't get a chance to shine in the same way, but Reed, Sue, and Johnny all had points where it felt like they were at the limits of their powers in some way, and the actors just really put it out there.
Yeah.
Johnny actually had a couple of great moments. One when he's chasing Surfer into space.
Yep.
That came across really well, and then the other where Reed, they've set it up perfectly, where Reed has told him, "You've got 10 minutes of flame on in that suit,"
Yeah.
and because he's so desperate to be the hero, to do the thing, he goes right up to the edge of that, and just the performance of it. I like how much we see the limits of them and how much they push their limits to the point of Sue dying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really feel like she was going to die.
No, I didn't either, but she did die.
But I will say that,
like,
Fantastic
from the
Four,
just to make sure we hit this point well enough, the character sacrificed herself.
yes.
She didn't know she was going to be brought back.
No.
She expended everything she had to, as she said, save this world.
And
so, like, we as the audience didn't really believe she was dead, but we did see her character sacrifice herself and die.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And any of them could have. I mean, certainly they all tested the limits that like they've probably never been tested before.
Yes.
And I appreciated that. And that's, again, that made Galactus more dangerous than I've ever seen him or ever thought he could be. I think the set pieces in Fantastic Four are better than in Superman. The action sequences, I think, they're like that surfing scene with the black hole and all that was just so amazing. The birth scene, the birthing of Franklin was amazing. And then the final battle with Galactus was just, I mean, even before that, when she comes and destroys all the teleport things,
yeah,
and
that
you're
was
just like,
devastating.
Yeah.
What now?
There were two moments in this movie that I cried. And I didn't do that in Superman.
Oh, see, opposite for me. There were two moments in Superman that not for reasons of like devastation but just out of sheer love for the purity of the heroism that I was seeing on the screen, like brought me to
I can
tears.
see that. Yeah,
whereas I got Fantastic Four. Like, I loved it. I love the fan. I don't want anybody to think either. I loved both of these movies.
I do too.
But yeah, Fantastic Four definitely didn't. It had moments of deep appreciation for me, but it didn't connect with me in quite the same way that Superman did.
I do think that overall, I think I might have either connected with or I enjoyed Fantastic Four a little bit more than Superman. Not enough to like, give them an extra star or whatever, but just a little bit more that I was like, but it could just be that it's fresher in my head because I just saw it like, a few days ago, whereas I saw Superman like, a couple weeks ago. So it could just be fresher in my head. And I'm just like, oh, man, but the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, man, because I want to see that beginning montage again. I want to see, like, there's just more that like I want to see again. And so good. I mean, we are truly blessed. And
right.
I give credit to Kevin Feige. I give credit to James Gunn. I give credit to, James Gunn's the guy who's in charge and the director of Superman. So I have to give Kevin Feige as well as the director, Matt Shankman of Fantastic Four, all the props and love in the world, because not only are these two movies steps in the right direction for where I think that these franchises should go, not only are they just fun stories, both of which are pretty amazing feats in and of themselves, but I also believe that they are stories that are really, really relevant to the shit that we have to deal with in our daily lives today.
Yes.
And you can talk all you want about, you just go and you go to the movies to escape or whatever. Nah, no. I mean, when you were, that there's something more that's happening in these movies, as there should be, Like the movies, these heroes, as they're depicted in the comic page, and now as they're depicted on screen, are all about hope, which is not something that we get a lot of in our daily lives. And for both directors and all of the people involved to make both these two movies back to back that come right out one after another, that hit all those points, I mean, that's just, you can't ask for more than that. We're truly blessed, because they could have easily gone other ways.
Yeah.
They could have easily gone other ways, and instead they opted to rise above, and I hope there's more of that to come. Box office wise, I think they're doing okay, but they're certainly not doing the huge numbers that these franchises have done in the past.
But will anything again?
Well, that's the big question, and that's the question that the bean counters, I think, need to recognize and acknowledge and go forward. I don't think they're willing to give up the ship, especially when you see Jurassic World just killed both of them box office.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Lilo and Stitch, a remake, shot for shot remake of an animated movie, already made $1 billion worldwide.
Oh, wow.
And so these two movies are not going to do that. Neither one of these movies is going to make $1 billion worldwide, as we've already discussed. And it's happening with Fantastic Four too. Fantastic Four is going overseas, and they don't really care about it either. So I don't know if overseas is just not feeling the superhero love, or what's going on. I don't know if we'll be able to really figure it out until we get a lot more data. But I was skeptical I've always been skeptical of the term superhero fatigue, but I do have to admit that it is a recognizable trait now, that we have two such amazing, incredible, fantastic movies that just came out, and they don't seem to be doing as well as I think they should.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is they are two super fantastic movies.
They are super fantastic. Yes, they are.
And I look forward to seeing both of them. I wish home media moved a little bit faster. I would love to just pop. I'd watch them one right after the other as soon as we're done here.
They will be out before you know it.
Soon enough, yeah. It happens faster than it used to.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, I want to mention, it's interesting. Fantastic Four, yes, obviously Galactus is the villain, but isn't it wild that there really isn't a central narrative villain to the movie? Like there's not like a Lex Luthor to hang your hat on, because Silver Surfer, even if you're not totally familiar with the premise, Silver Surfer is not really a villain. It's the harbinger of what's to come. Galactus doesn't have the screen time to be the typical villain that we see in movies like this. And then, of course, while Paul Walter Hauser I loved as Mole Man, especially the way that he was used in the plot.
Yeah.
I really liked the way he felt about Reed, and the Sue was like dealing with it.
Again, more proof that Sue is the real leader.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm predict going forward, we won't get a Doom versus Reed. We will get a Doom versus Sue. Uh,
Oh,
dynamic.
interesting.
Dynamic. I mean, look who the last two people that we see on screen are, right?
Sure. Yeah. Which we didn't even talk about that. The I guess that was the post credits.
Post credits, yeah. We get a hint that there may be a Doom on this world, but really Doom
Well,
doesn't.
there are two references to Latveria.
There are.
And both of them are that Latveria is isolationist.
Yeah. It's not enough to definitively say there's a Doom on this world, and I don't see how Doom as we know him could be on this world. Because there's no way that things happen the way they happen without Doom involved somehow. So
all I could think of with that is that, and this is just me trying to sort of logic it out as best I can, that he's watching everything happen the whole time, and he wants. And you bring up an interesting point, though, that if Sue is his nemesis, things are completely different. But he lets it go as far as it does because he wants to see that cursed Richards destroyed or made a fool of or whatever, and that he did have some contingency plan, but since Surfer intervened and knocked Galactus through that portal, which who knows where the two of them ended up.
I mean, that's a lot of work.
I know. But also, so what? He's just like,
I mean, I don't know if this world has a Doom.
There's no history now between him and them.
I mean, as far as we know, this world does not have a Doom, a Victor Von Doom. I mean, there's nothing to indicate that there. Sure, Latveria is there, but we don't know if Victor Von Doom is there.
There's nothing up Latveria.
There's not. I mean, just to mess with us.
I don't feel like this movie would do it just to mess with us.
I mean, you're right, but I mean, I guess I don't know, but it just it doesn't feel like Doom just wouldn't work in this. I mean, he's not in any of the, when they show the history of the Fantastic Four and all the battles that they fought and everything like that, Doom never comes up, and he's like their main guy.
What is the comic history of, because the movies have tainted my conception of what Doom is so badly. Like, they first met is he's just some villain. They don't have a history.
Oh yeah, they do.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah, they used to be like college roommates. Reed.
Okay.
Yeah. Reed and very early on they established that Reed and Victor were college roommates.
See, I didn't know if that was original story or if that was something that had been introduced later over the, because you know how often comic books like retroactively do shit like that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, it was really early on.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly like the timeline, but yeah, he becomes later on, he becomes the monarch of Latveria, and but he's also I mean, he lives to see Reed Richards dead. I mean, he that cursed Richards is he and Reed go like I mean, he feels it's kind of like his Reed is you know, like the way Lex in Superman feels about Superman.
Right.
Like that's how Doom feels about. And I don't think the MCU's Doom's going that way. So I'll be really curious to see how they handle Doom, because they obviously had to reset things when things didn't work out with what was the character that they had introduced that was going to be the major player of the multiverse and all that? Kang, right?
Kang, yeah.
So that didn't work out. So now Doom is replacing Kang, in my opinion. So what does that mean? And then they got, and having Robert Downey Jr. in it just adds a whole other element of what the hell's going on. So who knows? We certainly don't get enough in that teaser to know either way.
No, definitely not. But
So
that's the point, is to get us talking and speculating and to create that buzz of what's going on here, what's happening. Can't wait to see Doomsday to figure all this out.
now now I must say I also have questions too, because I have not seen I have not seen Thunderbolts yet.
I've loved Thunderbolts.
I've heard good things about it. I just couldn't get it there, so I'm waiting for that to stream. And but I understand that there is a scene at the end
Yeah.
which reflects back on the Fantastic Four, and that the Fantastic Four show up
Yep.
in some way.
I mean, I can tell you if you're.
No, I've seen visuals,
okay.
but I mean, I don't think we actually see them, right? We just see the ship.
No, we just see the ship.
Okay, so we just see a ship that has a 4 on it.
And when we saw that in the theater, right? Because that's we just talk about this shit now. Riley and I talked about it, and I was like, "What if it's not them? What if that's Doom?"
I mean, it could be. So we don't know. But yeah, it would be kind of interesting to see how this movie ties into what's going on there, because I got a feeling that both of the end credit scenes, that those involving Four and Doom or whatever, is going to play into Doomsday. I mean, it says right, the Fantastic Four will return in Doomsday. So, so I'm really curious as to see how the MCU handles Doom, but I don't think the Doom that we're going to see, at least right away anyway, is going to be the arch nemesis of the Fantastic Four. They have not set that up in this movie at all. In fact, he doesn't appear at all. So I'm pretty confident in saying that it's a completely different or whatever Doom.
Can I give you my crazy theory that I?
Sure.
Again, this is Riley and I just sit around throwing stuff like this around all the time. What if the character we saw at the end of Fantastic Four is that world's Tony Stark, and that he went through a similar experience to the 616 or whatever the MCU Tony Stark is, but did not find virtue and did not choose goodness, and because that mask that he's holding looks a lot more like an Iron Man mask than a Doctor Doom mask. And then when he shows up now, I don't want this to be the only Doctor Doom we ever get in the MCU, but this is how this stuff could tie together in my head. So then when he does show up in the MCU proper, because he's got that familiar face, he's able to take advantage of everybody and create whatever horrendous situation occurs.
The only thing about that is that would be odd, and I'm not saying you're wrong at all, because it's a definite possibility. I mean, all things are possible right now. But as far as consistency with the movie, there's nothing in this movie that establishes that anything on 828 is anything like any other variant that we've seen. Like, there's no characters that are on this world that were on other worlds, right? So if this world does have a Tony Stark, that seems odd to me, because, well, we just haven't seen anything else that would even resemble another, like a 616.
Yeah, there's nothing about any other big characters or anything, but also,
and you know, if I don't think even in this universe, or even in this world, especially in this world, Reed is not so pig-headed when he's trying to figure out a way out of this, not to go with the other smartest guy on the planet.
You know what, though? Consider this also. They make a big deal about the fact that the world worships the Fantastic Four. Like, they really drive that point home.
Sure.
To almost to where I felt like it was a little weird, and to where later in the movie, when he's sending the police cars out after the random villains around New York, I was like, is this almost a little sinister? Like, is Reed almost like a little dictatorial here? Like,
Well, I mean,
it
the Future
it
Foundation like is very much like, hey, we're taking over the world.
it verged
We're running this
on
planet.
that.
Yes.
Um, so if there is this Tony Stark in this world that had a different horrible thing happen to him, has he been watching this Fantastic Four jealously thinking that should be me
I
the whole
mean,
time?
maybe. I mean, maybe, and then, but,
But we
yeah, I
don't
don't
know.
know. We don't
Again,
know.
we don't know. It's
But I
just
will
fun to
say,
speculate.
it is fun to speculate, and I think this movie does sow a couple of seeds where, in the comic history, both Reed and Sue have gone bad. Like they've
Yeah.
been villainous at times. And uh there's that wonderful scene where Reed is talking to Franklin as a kid and a baby, and he's like, I don't want you to be like me because there's too much darkness in me. And you're like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. And then how quick is Sue to tell Johnny, kill her? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, so there are some seeds of both of those characters, and maybe the others too. I didn't pick up on, but there's some seeds that could show that, if push comes to shove, these characters might have a darker side. But I'm glad that this movie was like, you know what? That's not what we're interested in. That's not what we're telling here. This is
But it
all
did
about
sprinkle it in. Just like
it's
in Superman, we got those moments of more of his humanity. In
yeah.
Fantastic Four, we got those moments of like, oh, what if?
What if? Yeah.
Yeah. And this is my last wackadoo theory, or not theory, idea. This is my last wackadoo idea I'll throw at you because we do need to wrap this thing up. I love the idea that we came up with that Miles Teller from Four Stick does show up in the MCU as the Maker, as the evil Reed Richards,
Mm.
and that he destroyed his Fantastic Four trying to cure them, and subsequently like his whole world, and now he's just the insane evil Reed Richards. Because I think people accept that because Miles Teller has done a lot of fantastic work, no pun intended, a lot of great work. Like he's a great actor, and it would be something to see that story because I'm a fan of that character. Like that whole, there's a lot of stuff from the Ultimate Universe that isn't great, but there are a lot of things that are really are interesting and innovative concepts, and that's one that I wouldn't mind seeing
I
brought in.
think I think it, it's exciting and it's fun to speculate. And I think, with even though it does seem kind of, like looking at Galactus, like, oh my God, is this going to be too much? Uh, you know, Doomsday and Secret Wars look like, I mean, with their cast of millions, it's
Yeah,
like, are
right.
they going to be able to really do this? And hey, the people that, Marvel has shown that they can make history and pull it off. And, until they convince me otherwise, I put my faith in them. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they have, especially now that it feels like they have a plan.
Yes.
And so I'm eager to see, and I and nothing's off the table because they're pulling people from the Fox movies, they're pulling people from the Sony movies, they're pulling people
We,
from past DC. I
we
mean,
saw
Marvel
John
movies.
Krasinski as Reed Richards before we got even a proper MCU Reed Richards.
We
I
did,
mean, it's wild. It's
yeah.
wild.
And I thought his like death scene was pretty horrible, but that when Galactus was stretching Reed out, I was like, oh man, this is the worst I've ever, like, this is
Well,
terrible. This is
the in the not Mouth of Madness, whatever, the Doctor Strange sequel,
yeah.
Multiverse of Madness. Like that was a very Sam Raimi scene. So like while it was gruesome, there was also an element of tongue in cheek to it, whereas this just felt like torture.
Yeah.
It was brutal. All right, well, we got to wrap this thing up.
So
I
much
think
fun.
we both have concluded that Superman was fantastic. Fantastic Four was super.
Yep.
Both wonderful movies that I look forward to revisiting again and again. And both that narratively are about hope, but also are giving us hope for the future of these two different franchises.
Yeah. They are both great steps in the right direction for both franchises. And I am excited to see where they go from here in a way that I wasn't 2 months ago.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even as much as because look, as flawed a perspective as this might be, or as bad as a take as it might be to have, James Gunn is one of my sacred cows. I absolutely love every single thing he's ever done.
He's
Uh,
awesome.
he is, uh, I don't tend to look at any creator as flawless, but he's about as close as it gets for me. Even so, I wasn't as excited before seeing Superman as I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And with the MCU, as we discussed, their track record over the past few years hasn't been the best. So while I was excited for Fantastic Four, but I wasn't particularly hopeful. But now I'm excited again. I'm excited about Marvel movies again, and I just hope that the baggage of the MCU doesn't weigh down the possibilities of that we saw in Fantastic Four.
And I think the next MCU movie proper that we get is Doomsday. And I
Yeah,
think I
there's
think
a
we get a
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
coming,
movie.
but
We get a
that's
Spider-Man movie even in the middle.
yeah,
And how much that's going to be about the MCU, I don't know, but it whatever. But really, I think it's like in about a little over a year, uh, we'll get our sequel. So
yeah, yeah. And honestly, it'll be nice not to have. Well, no, I don't. Do we have? We don't even have any more TV.
I can't keep up. I don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
I think we get another season of Daredevil. I think they already shot that, so I think we're getting that. And
Okay. Okay.
which is I love that. So it's more
Oh
of that.
yeah, that
Yes,
was
please.
fantastic. Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, that was exactly the conversation I needed to have about these two movies. Thank you so very much for coming on the show. But before you go, you got to tell the people what you're up to and where they can find you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and besides my writing and the podcasts that I'm on, which are the podcast are Bat Chums, which we talk all about the '60s Batman series weekly. We've been reviewing every single episode, and that's a lot of fun. Also, the Dragon Con report, which we're getting ready. We're getting ready to talk. We're getting ready to do Dragon Con. It's not talking.
Less
Almost talking is done. We
less
got
than
one
a
more
month.
episode, and that's it. Yeah, we're so Dragon Con is almost upon us. And my other podcast that I'm on is Earth Station Who. We talk all about Doctor Who, and when there's no new episodes, we still talk about classic and legacy stuff. So have a lot of fun doing those three, as well as my appearances at the upcoming Dragon Con, as we mentioned. And I'm a track director for Monsterama, which is coming up next week. So a lot of stuff that's happening within the next couple months. And I've got another project that I'm just almost really this close to announcing. So hopefully that'll happen soon as well. So, but it's been great to join you once again, Dave. I appreciate always enjoying my time here in the Phantom Zone.
Let me know next time you guys are doing some Peter Davison business on Earth Station Who. I'd love to talk some Fifth Doctor at some point soon.
Interesting. I don't think we've covered. I think we've done most of his stories, but I think there are a couple that we're still are pending. So I will keep that in mind and check the schedule, see if we got anything coming up. But
Actually, him or Colin Baker, either one of those,
interesting.
I'd be interested in.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. And I'll see you in person in under a month.
Absolutely. Take care.
Oh, I'll see you in person in a few days because SummerSlam.
SummerSlam.
You have been listening to a Needless Things production. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for the very best in toys, movies, music, and pop culture. Until next time, be kind and like what you like.